Hi, I'm Tiffany Domina. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my website is howtoentrepreneur.org, and my mission is to help you grow a business from idea to enterprise. So if you or someone you know wants to start or grow a business, definitely stop by howtoentrepreneur.org and check out the free coaching. It's 7 days where you get your business questions answered, and it's meant to help you grow your business from idea to full-time income and from full-time income to enterprise. So today I wanted to talk to you about a very important subject, and that's time management and prioritization. So we'll be going over some Stephen Covey quotes because he is one of the foremost experts on this topic. So if you were looking for ways to improve in time management or to decide which tasks should be done before others, then this video will help you a lot. So in business, one of the constant challenges is time management and prioritization. There's always many things that are quote unquote good things you could be doing, but there's also always better and best things for you to do. So it's important to be able to sort through the good things and to choose the best things to drive results in your business and in your life. So if you don't have a formal practice that helps you to prioritize and invest time in the most appropriate tasks, then it's important to find an advisor like Stephen Covey, who's helped thousands and possibly even millions of people with planning more effectively. So first, let's talk about who is Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey is an American author who is most known for his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What most people don't know is that growing up, he was considered athletically inclined, but then he had a faint accident that caused him not to be able to compete athletically as he did before. So after losing the ability to compete athletically, Covey's attention was turned more to his academics, and he's become one of the most influential business leaders of our time. So in addition to writing 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey also wrote the books The 8th Habit, First Things First, Principle-Centered Leadership, and The Leader in Me, How Schools and Parents Around the World Are Inspiring Greatness One Child at a Time. So, as far as Stephen Covey's quotes on time management and prioritization, in life it seems like some people get lots done within 24 hours and others get very little done. In fact, some people are earning millions in 24 hours and others are barely earning anything. How is it that some people can use the same amount of time to impact thousands more people and make millions more dollars, and others can barely influence themselves and their small social circle? So one of the overarching benefits of reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is that you learn about the prioritization techniques used by the most successful people. So time management and prioritization is key, and here are some of Stephen Covey's quotes that can give insight into how we should manage our time for maximum effectiveness. So he says, when the trust account is high, communication is easy, instant, and effective. So a lot of us may spend more time on negotiating, on talking, on trying to reason with people because the trust account isn't high, and so the communication is cumbersome and it takes a long period of time. But what Stephen Covey is saying is that when we build up the trust, then it makes our communication more efficient. And when our communication is more efficient, then it saves us lots of time. So he says the ability to subordinate an impulse to a value is the essence of the proactive person. So everyone experiences temptation and desire and emotions and feelings throughout the day, but there's some people who are able to say, despite what I'm feeling right now, I'm going to have the discipline to do an alternative action. And the reason for making the choice is because they know their overarching goals, their long-term goals. And so they know that if they just take a day and they just decide to sleep all day, or they take a week or a month and they just decide to sleep or just relax or just eat whatever they want, unhealthy, then they know the consequences of those behaviors over the long term. And so what Stephen Covey is saying is that the proactive person is able to subordinate their impulses to a value. And that's very important. This is a part of prioritization. He says that our behavior is a function of our decision and not our conditions. So I know we've all done it where we say that we're in this situation because of our past. We're in this situation because of how much money we have. We're in this situation because of what our parents told us, or our sister or brother told us, or our boss told us. We're in this situation because of how hot it is outside, or how cold, or how lukewarm it is. And we blame the conditions for our consequences. But he's saying that our behavior is a function of our decisions. So we can't blame our conditions. We need to blame our decisions. So how different our lives are when we really know what is deeply important to us, and keeping that picture in mind, we manage ourselves each day to be and to do what really matters most. So we need to sit down and write down the things that are the most important to us. And this is a practice that is done in life planning. In one portion of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey talks about beginning with the end in mind. And during that portion, he really goes over an exercise where you would get real with how you want to leave this earth. What do you want your funeral to be like? What do you want people to say about you when you leave? What impact do you want to have? What accomplishments do you want to make while you're here? And during that exercise, you get real about the things that are the most important to you, because at the end of the day, at the end of this life, you want to have certain things accomplished. And in order to accomplish those things, each day is like a building brick towards that ultimate day. And so every day we have decisions of what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And those decisions should take us closer and closer to our ultimate goals. So he says that when we sit down and we realize, when we analyze those things that are really important to us, and we keep that picture in mind, then we manage our days based off of what matters the most. He also tells us that we should be beginning each day with the blueprint of our deepest values. Verbatim, he says, begin each day with the blueprint of my deepest values firmly in mind. Then when challenges come, make decisions based on those values. So a lot of us don't have something like a to-do list, or a schedule, or something that helps us to stay focused in our day-to-day activities. But instead, we might wake up, you might wake up and you hear the alarm clock, and then you're running, and then you're just getting ready for work, and then you're running from task to task to task without actually thinking about the most important values you have for the day. So he says that we should begin each day with a blueprint of our deepest values, so they're firmly in our minds. So then when challenges come, whether it's a flat tire, whether it's a conflict that comes up, a relational conflict, it might be just feeling tired. You feel more tired than normal, and then you start to be sluggish. But when challenges like that come up, even if they're internally in your body, and you have that blueprint of your deepest values in mind, it makes you have an inner resolve that you wouldn't otherwise have. And when you have that inner resolve, then it helps you to push past those challenges and to stay on task. So finally, he says, Proactive people focus their efforts in their circle of influence. They work on the things they can do something about. The nature of their energy is positive, enlarging, and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. Reactive people, on the other hand, focus their efforts in the circle of concern. They focus on the weakness of other people, the problems in the environment, and circumstances over which they have no control. Their focus results in blaming and accusing attitudes, reactive language, and increased feelings of victimization. The negative energy generated by that focus, combined with neglect in areas they could do something about, causes their circle of influence to shrink. So, in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about the circle of influence, and the circle of influence is like the relationships where you have trust. That could be family, friends, co-workers. He talks about our personal productivity. It could be what you're able to do professionally. It could be your skills. So your circle of influence is those things that you can do something about. But your circle of influence could be like the news. Maybe you spend a lot of time watching the news and you're hearing about the crimes and all of these things going on that you have no control over. Or maybe your circle of concern is social media, and you're watching all of these feeds and what's going on in everybody else's life, and you actually don't have much control over that either. And you start to take on these blaming attitudes or this victimization, or you start to take on these beliefs that maybe the world is this negative place. And all of this is a result of putting too much emphasis on things you can't control and focusing too much on your circle of concern instead of focusing on the circle of influence. But when you switch it around and you focus on your circle of influence, you can actually expand that to the point where you can impact things that you were concerned about before, but you had no control over before. So start from where you are, start from those things that you can influence, and grow outward. So another interesting thing about Stephen Covey, aside from his quotes, is that he has this 4-quadrant philosophy, and I think it can really help you to improve how you prioritize day-to-day activities. So in his book, he described how some people go from fire to fire. For example, they might go from a heated debate with their spouse to a flat tire to a health crisis, and they seem to always go from crisis to crisis uncontrollably. Then on the other hand, you have successful people, and they don't do that. They don't go from crisis to crisis because of the way that they divide their time. So he splits the way that we each can divide our time into 4 quadrants, and let's talk more about the 4 quadrants. First, quadrant 1 activities. In quadrant 1, these activities are important and they're urgent. They are crisis and pressing problems like car accidents, health emergencies, vehicle emergencies, professional emergencies, and anything that can't be put off for another day. So while it seems like it would be impossible to minimize the frequency of quadrant 1 activities, you can. And in his book, he says people who are highly successful don't monopolize their time with quadrant 1 activities. So you might be asking, how do they stop these emergencies or these accidents from happening? And I know when I was reading through his book, I was thinking, probably similar to you. How is it that they can eliminate these things? And so let's go on and talk about quadrant 2 activities. Quadrant 2 activities are important, but they're not urgent. And these are the activities that can easily be put to the side and underestimated because they aren't urgent. But they include things like planning, preventative activities, disciplines, and other activities that prevent quadrant 1 crises from happening. So going back to quadrant 1 activities, you have an event like car accidents. And you might think, car accidents are accidents. How can you prevent that? But if you think about it, a lot of times car accidents happen because we're in a rush. We might be eating, we might be driving, we might be trying to communicate with our kids or our spouses or our coworkers. In the car, we might be texting, hey, I'm running late, or we might be changing clothes or doing makeup and all kinds of things because we're in a rush. And as a result of not taking the time to do the preventative things, we end up in a car accident. And there's lots of case studies about car accidents that happen for reasons like that. And then you have something like health emergencies. And a lot of times the health emergencies happen because of poor eating habits or poor dieting or poor exercise and lifestyle habits. And so, and as a result of these preventative activities not being done, then you end up with a health emergency. Or you have vehicle emergencies. You have the flat tire, you have the transmission going out on the highway, you have all kinds of things like that that happen because maybe the oil wasn't changed, maybe the tune-up wasn't done. You have all of these maintenance issues that were put to the side. And you have the professional emergencies that come up because preventative things weren't done. Maybe the payroll wasn't done, so then you have people complaining that they weren't paid. So a lot of things happen because the quadrant 2 activities haven't been given enough time and thought. And highly successful people, according to Stephen Covey's book, highly successful people spend a lot of time on quadrant 2 activities like business planning, life planning, exercise, maintenance, and other activities that prevent the quadrant 1 emergencies. Then you have quadrant 3 activities, and these are like these can creep up on you because you'll think that maybe this is a quadrant 1 activity. Just subconsciously, it'll just distract you from what you were doing before. So quadrant things are things that can habitually be escalated in importance subconsciously if you're not careful. It's things like your phone notifications or social media or email or unimportant phone calls. Now, sometimes these things can be quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 activities, but sometimes they can just be distractions. And so maybe your phone might ring while you're in the middle of another activity and you decide to divert from what you were doing and answer that phone call, and that phone call may not be important at all. You can have another quadrant 3 activity could be gossip. You could be focused on what you're doing and then somebody comes over to you and says, hey, did you hear about so-and-so, or did you see on the news that this happened, or did you see that that happened? And before you know it, you're sucked into a quadrant 3 activity when you might have been doing a quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 activity. So it's really, really important that you take your time and you categorize these events so that you make sure that these quadrant 3 activities are not being escalated into a position they shouldn't be in. And then finally you have quadrant 4 activities, and quadrant 4 activities are the time wasters. These are things that you can get in the habit of consumerism. There's definitely a rise in consumerism, and it's marked with the excess of quadrant 4 activities. So people spend an excessive amount of time on Netflix, and don't get me wrong, Netflix can be a lot of fun, it can be entertaining, and it can even be educational or professional development depending on what you do. But watching entertaining videos, playing video games, and spending time on activities that don't positively impact your overall life goals it's just wasting time. And that's when it falls into quadrant 4 activities. To be highly successful, it's important that you identify these quadrant 4 activities and you keep them to a minimum. It's okay to have your rest. It's okay to take a break. Those things are okay, but at the same time, you don't want it to become too habitual and to monopolize the way you spend your time. So, in conclusion, It's very important to be intentional about how you're spending your time. It's very easy to get consumed into day-to-day activities and take the time spent for granted. But we all meet those moments like funerals, or seeing someone who is kidnapped or held hostage, or chronic illness, or even a storm or a tragedy. And then we realize how finite time truly is. We grow in appreciation for the time that we have. And each of us need to be mindful every day that you have a purpose, and I personally really want you to fulfill that. But in order to accomplish that purpose, you will need to be intentional about daily time management and prioritization. So I'm hoping that this video was helpful for you, and it helps you to eliminate time wasters and to get on track with healthy productivity habits. If you or someone you know is looking to start or grow a business, check out my free coaching. It's 7 days where you'll be able to ask questions about growing your business and get my best responses for free. So definitely stop by How to Entrepreneur and check out the free coaching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this where I do product and service reviews, as well as growth strategies to help you grow your business from idea to full-time income and from full-time income to enterprise, then definitely subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Now, I really appreciate you hanging in there with me and going through this time management and prioritization. And I really hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.